Hey Facebook friends, how's everyone doing today? Hope you're all having an amazing and super productive day so far. Tamie M coming to you from TamieMCoaching.com, and what I want to talk to you about today is, what does it mean to be codependent? What does it mean to be codependent? You know, that word gets thrown around a lot, and I think often there's a lot of misinformation or even disinformation out there, and just a lot of, folks, based on the conversations that I have regularly, who have heard of the term but don't really know what it means. Like, I'm talking to some folks who were saying, ladies in particular, who were saying, I didn't even know I was codependent until I started tuning into your live broadcasts. We're so other focused. We're so focused on the object of our obsession, and we're so focused on the narcissist or, whoever else. We're so other focused that we've never really taken the time to take a step back and go, what's going on with me that I continually find myself in these types of relationship patterns? What's going on with me? So that's what we're going to talk about today. What does it mean to be codependent? But before we get started, I'll take a quick moment to properly introduce myself. Once again, my name is Tamie M. I am an empowerment coach for women. I help women break free from painful relationship patterns through a proven 8-week process called the Freedom Class. And if you want some more information on that, either drop me a comment or send me a private message and we'll get you the details on that. So I see a whole bunch of friends hopping on. Now, the other day, I don't know what the hell happened. I don't know if any of you guys tuned into my live the day before yesterday, but I touched the screen to say hi to some folks, and all of a sudden I was sideways, and yeah, I didn't even really know how to fix that, even though I've been doing this live broadcast thing for a while. So I thought today what I would do is have my trusty little tablet in my hand, and maybe that would be an easier way to say hey and see what kind of comments are coming in. But for whatever reason, my live isn't showing up. Technology's great when it works, hey? It's like fabulous when it works. When it doesn't work, however, I have grown in patience. Here we go. There I am. So who do we have? Bobby, how are you? Nice to see you. Let's see who we have on here. Guys, do me a favor. If you're catching the live broadcast, drop me a 1 in the comments. If you're catching the replay, drop me a 2. And if you're new to my live broadcast, let me know you're new and let me know where you're coming in from so I can reach out and say hello. So we've got Bobby, we've got Delroy all the way from the UK. Nida or Nida, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that properly. Welcome, welcome. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining. So what does it mean to be codependent? Often, it's assumed that a codependent is a person who's in a relationship with an alcoholic, an active drug addict, what have you. And often that's the case, but not always. That's not always the case. There doesn't necessarily have to be an active addict, an active alcoholic in the situation. You can have two highly codependent people relating to one another in maladaptive ways, and that's really what it boils down to. Codependency is fundamentally about a breakdown in our relationship with ourselves. It starts there. It's a breakdown in the relationship that we have with ourselves, and then from there it moves outward in terms of the maladaptive ways that we relate, starting with ourselves and then with others and the world at large. So fundamentally, it's about a breakdown in the relationship with ourselves. So I've got some bullet points here to keep me on track, because I tend to go on and on and on. So in other words, it's a maladaptive way of relating to ourselves, our loved ones, and the people the people around us, so our loved ones, those closest to us, and even, our colleagues, our friends, like the world at large, right? And really it is considered to be a state of dis-ease. It's a state of dis-ease. It's a progressive disease, just like alcoholism and drug addiction is. It's a progressive disease caused by childhood trauma. That's where it all begins. It all, you know, like people get tired of hearing that sometimes, but the truth is that's where it started, and that's where the solutions can be found, right? That's where that, you know, going back and dealing with and healing that stuff is really certainly the most powerful solutions I've ever come across. And believe me, I looked for decades for other solutions before going near the hard work, right? But that's really what it's all about. It all starts with childhood trauma. And we experience childhood trauma, varying degrees. Codependency, like narcissism, is on a continuum. It's a spectrum. These issues are never black and white. Childhood trauma, varying degrees, right? It's, you know, like all the way to horrific abuse, but even benign neglect is considered traumatic in childhood. Even benign neglect, you know, abandonment by omission is considered traumatic. So you might have had very well-intending parents who were preoccupied in terms of, you know, one parent being preoccupied, you know, obsessively on another, or preoccupied with work, or preoccupied with a very legitimate serious issue, an illness or something going on. And as a little one, you did not get the love and care and nurture that you really needed. Doesn't mean they weren't well-intended. Sometimes it's, you know, well-intended parents doing the best they can with the resources they have, and nonetheless imperfect, you know, perfectly imperfect human beings dropping the ball. Sometimes they're not so well intended, in my experience. It's not always, you know, just a matter of sometimes they're not well intended. Often they are well intended, they just don't know any better. They can't give you what they don't have. But that's where it all begins. It begins as a disease process that affects the relationship that we have with ourselves, starting in childhood as a result of childhood trauma. And as we grow up, we continue in these maladaptive ways of relating to ourselves, to others, and the world at large. So it basically is fundamentally an issue of emotional immaturity and stunted growth due to unresolved childhood trauma. I'm going to say that again because it's important, and this really is at the crux of it all. It is fundamentally an issue of emotional immaturity. I know some folks in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who are wounded 4-year-olds walking around lashing out, aggressively and passively lashing out nonetheless. It has nothing to do with how many years you've been on the planet. It's whether or not you've actually addressed your own issues, which the vast majority of us have stuff that needs to be addressed sooner or later. And if we don't, this stuff gets progressively worse. So it is fundamentally an issue of emotional immaturity and stunted growth due to unresolved childhood trauma. And there we are out there thinking we're adults, trying to have relationships, wondering why we're in so much pain, so much suffering, and it's not working. It all starts there. So again, it's a progressive disease, just like alcoholism and any other addictive process. Left untreated, friends, hear this. This is important. Left untreated, it gets worse, never better. Never better. I can't tell you the number of examples I have of that in my own family of origin and just people I have known throughout my life. Left untreated, it gets worse, never better. I mean, I know folks who admitted to me 20 and 30 years ago that they knew that they were codependent, did nothing about it, nothing. And here they are 20, 30 years later, still suffering more than ever, suffering more than ever. It's a continuum, a spectrum, and left untreated as it gets worse, the really, really unwell codependents that I know become quite narcissistic. It doesn't mean they're destructive narcissists. It doesn't mean that they are lacking in conscience, like a person who is, you know, narcissistically personality disordered. They have a conscience, but it is fractured, and they can be quite narcissistic. Like, that's how serious this is, that as it progresses up the continuum, left untreated, they become progressively more and more narcissistic. This is a whole other tangent. I won't go deep into it. I did a live, I think a week or two ago on this, but there is such a thing as healthy narcissism. That's one end of the spectrum. Psychopaths are at the other end of the spectrum. So this end of the spectrum is destructive narcissism, and when untreated codependency progresses over the years, they move into the area of underdeveloped narcissism. We all healthy, again, I don't want to go too deep into this because it's a whole other subject, but there is such a thing as healthy narcissism. You know, when we're 4 years old, it's normal for us to be narcissists, completely self-absorbed, lacking in conscience, nose and navel, all of that, right? But as we grow and develop emotionally, assuming that we're getting our emotional, psychological, and spiritual needs met by our family of origin, our tribe, whatever, we grow into what is considered healthy narcissism, a healthy sense of self. We understand where we end and the other begins. When we grow up in dysfunctional families, what happens is we grow into adulthood with underdeveloped narcissism. We do not develop healthy narcissism. That can manifest in a lot of ways. Doesn't make us destructive narcissists. It means that there's a lack of emotional maturity there. We can be quite self-absorbed, quite self-centered, quite emotionally childish and immature. Nose in navel. Again, doesn't mean we're lacking conscience. That doesn't make us a full-blown, pathological narcissist. That's a whole other level, often caused by very serious trauma, a whole other story. Point being, codependency, left untreated, gets worse, never better, just like alcoholism, any other disease process. It gets worse, never better. And what that looks like is more and more narcissistic traits. That's what it looks like. No fun. Not for you and not for anyone around you. That's for sure. It is also worth noting that codependency is rampant in society. It's rampant in society. It's so prevalent that unless it is in its more progressed and extreme stages, it's actually considered normal. And our music and our movie industries really promote these maladaptive ways of thinking and behaving. Rampant in society. This is a big issue. Again, varying degrees, right? Some folks are healthier than others, obviously. But unless it's in its more progressive stages, it's actually what's considered to be normal behavior. Scary. Now, Pia Mellody, there's a number of folks out there who were considered, foremost experts on this subject. Pia Mellody, from what I understand, was like the real pioneer in this subject. She, worked for many years, possibly decades, at a place called the Meadows in the States as a, treating alcoholics and alcoholics and addicts and their families. And ultimately discovered that the person, the para-alcoholic, the person, involved, the spouse, the partner, the children, the whatever, the people involved with the alcoholic or addict that were considered para-alcoholics or para-addicts had a disease process of their own. And her work is really, as far as I understand, foundational to our really coming into a full-blown understanding of what codependency is, what it looks like, how it manifests in our lives, how it manifests in our relationships. And just like, in my opinion, I grew up in a very dysfunctional family, like many of us have, with, lots of raging alcoholics, raging codependents, and full-blown pathological narcissists, among other things, right? I've heard it said, I know that the medical community considers alcoholism and drug addiction to be mental illness, like it falls under the umbrella of mental illness. Seriously progressed codependency does as well. seriously progressed codependency does as well. And in my own personal experience, I can tell you that that is true. I know some very mentally, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually ill people as a result of untreated codependency. It's an awful way to go through life. The good news is there are answers. Anyway, there are solutions. That's the good news. It's never too late. There are solutions. But PMLity, let's get back to PMLity. So there's a lot of people out there who, you know, are amazing teachers on the subject. So there's a lot of information that we can, you know, arm ourselves with. She by far has been the one who has taught me the most over the course of my own recovery journey since, you know, I stepped into full-blown official recovery in 2005, and my life changed for the better very quickly and has continued to improve year after year as a result of being on the recovery journey. And recovering from a lot of things, including narcissistic abuse, but at the core of it all is codependency recovery. At the core of it all is codependency recovery. So PMLity says that it renders a person unable to do the 5 things necessary for themselves in order to be a mature person. And this comes from her book, Facing Codependence. I don't know if you can see that. Facing Codependence. If codependency is an issue in your life, a lot of you who follow me are, you know, have been or are currently being narcissistically abused. Understand that if you're engaging with a narcissist on any level, there's a number of reasons for that, which we can discuss one-on-one. At the core of it is untreated codependency. If you did not have untreated codependency, you would not be a match. You would not be doing that dance. And according to PMLity, it boils down to 5 core challenges of codependence, which she discusses in this book, Facing Codependence, which I highly, highly, highly recommend. I read it for the first time about 13 years ago, and I've read it a number of times. It's powerful. There's lots of other good books out there, but that one's absolutely my favorite. So the 5 core challenges of codependence. How do we know if we have it? Number 1, codependents tend to be unable to experience appropriate levels of self-esteem, according to PMLity. Unable to experience appropriate levels of self-esteem. So what this looks like is we're either always one up or one down. We're never in a situation of I'm okay, you're okay. We've either got to be superior or we're feeling incredibly inferior. We're either looking down our noses at someone or we feel less than. We go through life comparing our insides to everybody else's outsides and often end up feeling as if we're coming up one short. And then whenever we have the opportunity to make our, you know, little ego selves feel better, we're looking down our noses. So I'm sure you know people in your life like that. Maybe you recognize this behavior in yourself. It's always one up or one down. We can never be on a level playing field until we get into recovery, start doing our own work, building up our own sense of self-love and self-esteem. And the more you do that, the more you realize, you know, I might not be in alignment with that choice. I might not be okay with that behavior. I might have to set some very serious fucking boundaries here. But that doesn't make me better than. And it doesn't make me less than. We are all God's children, right? So that's the first core challenge of codependence, unable to experience appropriate levels of self-esteem. I see a whole bunch of other people have jumped on here. I just want to say a quick hello. Let me say hi. Do me a favor, guys. If you're catching me live, drop me a 1. If you're catching the replay, drop a 2 in the comments. And if you're new to my live broadcast, let me know you're new and let me know where you're coming in from. And if you hopped on late, know that when the live broadcast is over, you can always go back and catch the replay so that you catch all the goods. So I see Satch all the way from the UK. How are you? Nice to see you, gorgeous. Thanks for hopping on. And Tracy, welcome. And Cynthia from New York, welcome. Nice to see you. Claire, welcome. Nice to see you. Thanks for hopping on. If you're getting some value out of this, let me know. If some light bulbs are going on, let me know. Drop me some comments and let me know what's resonating with you. So unable to experience appropriate levels of self-esteem was 1. Number 2, trouble setting functional boundaries with other people. Trouble setting functional boundaries with other people. Folks who struggle with codependency lack boundaries internally and externally. They really struggle in this area. Don't know where I end and you begin. Totally feel responsible for everybody else and their feelings. Because we lack internal boundaries, like narcissists, we're very easily slighted, very easily hurt. We have no insulation against what's going on and how we're being bombarded, and we're often surrounded by not the most high-functioning people, often surrounded by destructive narcissists. So lacking those boundaries, we're very easily gaslighted, we're very easily manipulated. Horrible way to go through life. Thank God I don't have to live that way anymore. So grateful I don't have to live that way anymore. And if you're living that way, there are solutions. Drop me a comment, send me a private message. You can find your way out of living that way. It's an awful way to go through life. Number 3, they have difficulty owning their own reality. They have difficulty owning their own reality. One of the things that I say to my coaching clients all the time, actually, there's 2 things I find myself repeating all the time, over and over, is this. If you feel it, it's true for you. If you feel it, it's true for you. You don't have to second guess yourself and second guess your feeling and feel bad because you have the feeling. If you feel it, that feeling is there for a reason. It's your internal guidance system. If you feel it, it's true for you. The other thing I find myself repeating over and over again is you know what you live. You know what you live. You don't have to buy into the manipulation and the gaslighting and the lies and the bullshit. You know what you live. You know what you live. So having difficulty owning our reality is something that, crippling, indicative of untreated codependency. Number 4, unable to take care of their adult dependency issues around needing and wanting. So that's Pia's way of saying that we're unable to take care of ourselves. We're walking around in adult bodies, but we're wounded little children, and we're expecting other people to meet our needs. And usually we go to the hardware store looking for milk. Not only are we expecting other people to meet our needs emotionally, psychologically, physically, whatever it is, and our wants, we're pissed off and resentful and waiting for other people to step up and meet our needs from our wounded child place. And I don't mean to sound like this is your fault. There's a big difference between this is your fault and this is your responsibility. Honey, if you're living this way, trust me, I lived this way for a long time. It isn't your fault. This is the way you were programmed. This is the way you were wired. But as we grow into adulthood, it becomes our responsibility to do something about it, Learning to take care of our own needs, learning to take care of our own wants. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't go for support or wise counsel or, I'm in the healthiest relationship I could possibly imagine today with the love of my life. I had to do a lot of work to get there, to be able to attract this guy into my life. Does he meet my needs on a daily basis to some degree? Sure, but I meet them first. They're my responsibility. And because I meet my own needs and because they're my responsibility, I've attracted someone into my life who can add to that. I'm not sitting back, again, like a wounded child, like I used to 15, 20 years ago, waiting for some narcissistic asshole to show up and be something he's absolutely incapable of being to meet the needs that I myself am not willing to meet for myself. Crazy, but that's what we do. Number 5, in terms of the 5 core challenges of codependence, they are unable to experience and express their reality in moderation. Unable to experience and express their reality in moderation. Everything's either a great big drama and they're, overreacting, or they're completely shut down. Totally excitable, easily excitable. Everything's like, or they're completely numb and shut off and disconnected, or they vacillate back and forth between the two. Unable to experience and express their reality in moderation. Healthy adults who have healed their wounded inner child can express themselves moderately. in balance. That is one of the big gifts that I have gotten, and I still, look, 13 years down the road, progress not perfection. I still have to catch myself sometimes. I still have to watch myself sometimes, but learning how to express myself and my reality moderately in a balanced fashion, much healthier way to go through life. Much healthier way to go through life. Are you guys getting some value out of this? I see Joe is saying brilliant. So I hope you're liking this. I hope you're finding this helpful. I'm just gonna quickly finish off with the 5 secondary symptoms of codependence. These are some other things that you want to look out for. Codependency, in my experience, based on, you know, my own codependency recovery, as well as, you know, observing my family of origin, all the people that I've known my whole life, basically here on planet Earth, as well as the coaching clients that I work with. It can manifest in so many ways. You know, it can manifest in so many ways. You know, like some folks are just extremely rigid, controlling, and defensive. I've got someone in my life like that, long distance now, but the more I recovered, the less I was able to spend time with her. It is very, very difficult as a recovering person to spend time with someone who is extremely rigid, controlling, and defensive. One example. It can manifest in a myriad of different ways, but these are the highlights, the points that you want to be looking out for in yourself. We need to take our focus off of everyone else for a while and put our focus on us. And as we do our own work, the outside begins to shift. They either naturally start to fall away, they don't know how to, you know, react or, you know, deal with us because we're getting better. They start to disappear into the ethers because they're no longer a vibrational match, or we just start setting some cold, hard, fast boundaries because we need to do that. But our focus and attention when we're looking at this stuff, very easy to spot it in everyone else, far more productive and far healthier to actually just focus on us, look for it in us, and do our own work. Makes for a much happier life. So 5 secondary symptoms of codependence. Number 1, negative control. Negative control. Where are you controlling in your life? Trying to control others, trying to control outcomes. Negative control. Number 2, resentment. And often, my friends, we're resentful for good reason. We've been freaking hurt. But we don't want to live there full time. Like my friend Heather said yesterday, we don't want to unpack there. Often we're so resentful because we're carrying a lot of anger for good reason. We've been mistreated, we've been hurt, we've been neglected, we've been abandoned, we've been lied about, we've been smear campaigned, all kinds of shit has happened to us. We're pissed. But that's no way to go through life, and it doesn't serve us, and it doesn't put a dent in the darkness in our lives or here on planet Earth. We need to deal with our anger. Feel it, yes. Deal with it, up-level it, and heal it. Living full-time from a resentful place, it's one way to protect yourself, but there are better ways. There are much better ways. Don't unpack there, as Heather said. Number 3, impaired spirituality. Impaired spirituality in terms of the 5 secondary symptoms of codependency. Impaired spirituality. What does that look like? That looks like either I think I'm the higher power in my life or someone else's life. Like I don't have a balanced perspective of the fact that there is actually a higher power outside of me. So either I think I'm the higher power or I've made someone else the higher power. Often when we're stuck in these relationships with these very destructive narcissists and we're completely love addicted and stuck in that dynamic, what's going on among many things is impaired spirituality, where we have made the other person our higher power. Never make another person your higher power, and remind yourself every day that you are not the higher power either. There is a higher power. And when we tap into that daily, things get better. Things get better. Number 4, in terms of 5 secondary symptoms of codependency, addictions, mental or mental or physical illness. Addictions or mental or physical illness. I remember 13 years ago, when I went away to a treatment center to go through I went through this program twice. It was a family program, meaning an Al-Anon-based program. It was a program in a treatment center specifically designed for folks who had been affected by the family disease of alcoholism. So it was a full-blown, very intense, deep dive, deep program for codependency treatment. And I went through that program twice, once in 2008, 10 years ago, and once in 2010. Life-changing stuff, life-changing stuff. They went through a list of the physical manifestations of codependency left untreated. Like so many people out there have all of these aches and pains and immune disorders and disease processes happening in their physical bodies, which are literally a physical manifestation of codependency left untreated. True story, true story. Number 5, difficulty with intimacy. Difficulty with intimacy. We're either love addicted or love avoidant, or both, going back and forth. Always someone running, always someone chasing. Always someone running, always someone chasing. That's all about codependency. That's all about addiction, and has nothing to do with healthy intimacy. That, my friends, is what it looks like to be codependent. I hope you got some value out of that. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to like, comment, and or share. Once again, my name is Tamie M. I am an empowerment coach for women. I help women break free from painful relationship patterns through a proven 8-week process called the Freedom Class. If you'd like some information on that, drop me a comment or send me a private message. We'll have a conversation and see if you qualify for the program. Otherwise, go enjoy the rest of your day. Self-love is where it's at, my friends. So go enjoy the rest of your day. Be sure to love on and love all over you. And last but not least, know your value. Know your value and unlock your freedom. Mwah. Bye for now.